I hope everybody's doing great and amazing. Let me just open Twitch on my phone. There we go. Okay, so today we are discussing the super fun topic of how to fill your annual activity report. Okay, so there we go. So, annual activity report, which is what many of us are doing now or are supposed to be doing now. I'm going to do mine this afternoon. And before we start, I just want to be clear that I'm discussing this in my role of faculty and not in my role of director of research, although obviously I do have some insights from that role as well, and I will share them with you as well. Okay, so what is the goal of, let me just check on Twitter something, just super quick. Notifications, blah, blah, blah. Okay, good. So I just wanted to check that I'm on the good path. So, what is the goal of an annual activity report? Well, let's start with what the goal is not, and the goal is not to impress. So, I feel that the worst thing that you can do on an annual activity report is try to impress the person that is reading this for a very simple reason. And that very simple reason is that what people will be looking at in your annual activity report to be impressed or not, to evaluate you or not, are your publications, what you produced. And if you try to use the text part of the report to impress people, you'll maybe setting up unrealistic expectations that will come back to bite you the next year. So, if it's not to impress people, then why? What's the goal of an annual activity report? Well, basically, there are two goals. One is to set up expectations for the upcoming year, normally lower expectations for the coming year, and get support for your head of department. This is super important because, we'll typically be working in places where research goals are just a little bit a stretch for each of us, and so it's super important to get help, support, and understanding from the people that are leading us. Okay, there are basically two things that you need to think about. One is your self-evaluation of the past year and your research plans for the next couple of years, okay? For self-evaluation of past year, this basically what you have to do here is the opposite of almost the opposite what a salesperson would do, which is that you really need to emphasize the challenges that you overcame. The idea is that it is really important to represent your research path as a series of obstacles that you're overcoming rather than smooth sailing. Okay, so if you had a good year, it is as important to spend time in writing your self-evaluation as it is if you had a bad year. Why? Because you want to ensure that people understand that a good year is results from overcoming difficult obstacles. That it is not smooth sailing, that it is not something that they can expect. And sometimes your pipeline can come back to bite you on this, right? And this actually happened to me, which is actually my first year in my current school at USAG. I got publication in US Quarterly and an acceptance in organization science. So believe you me, that this was probably the year where in my entire life where I spent most time in my self-evaluation, because what I wanted to make clear is that, these were very difficult accomplishments, and because they were very difficult accomplishments, it was not something that was going to happen within the next 2, 3, 4 years, okay? So super important, okay? And then you have your research plans for the next couple of years. Now, what is important to realize is that the people evaluating this are seasoned researchers themselves, and people that, obviously there may be exceptions, but people that have been managing faculty for a while, okay? So, what do you want to put in your research plan for the next couple of years? The first thing that you want to put is publication progress. Okay, so you want to say, this is what I have accomplished in my pipeline this year. Okay, and so for that, basically, it's super important that you keep something like this, which is, basically a tracker of, what you have done throughout the year. So you've seen this in previous videos. This is a spreadsheet that I use just to manage my my publications, so to see, what am I supposed to be working on next, right? And so you should keep a record of this so that okay, what sort of revised resubmits do you get, what rejections do you get, what are the new things you're working on, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, so in publication progress, you're basically making statements about what you have done. Again, the idea is to, if you have the space to write this, is to highlight some of the challenges in when you're writing papers. So, for example, I will speak about difficult review teams if I have difficult review teams. If I had like a crazy reject, I will also speak about that, because, well, I'll say I'll speak about that more if I was on the junior faculty side of things. When you're senior faculty, this hopefully matters a little bit less, but but I'll probably still do it. So what is this? Is you get second round or more reject, right? So you submitted paper, got an R&R, submitted paper, got an R&R, and then you submit the paper again and you get a reject. Okay, that's rough, and it is important that people know that that this is not like a first round reject, that that this paper went through the process, because it shows that you are a capable academic. Obviously, if you are in my position where you have published some good papers, people already know that you've published some good papers. But if you're junior, if you have very few or no publications, that's really important to highlight, okay, on the publication progress. And everybody knows that it's a part of the process, so there's no point of of feeling ashamed about it. It's not a failure. I would say it's a good failure, right? So that you progressed the paper far enough, and then it got rejected, and we've all been there, so we know. Okay, so in publication progress, highlight what you submitted, what you have in revised resubmits, and again, what you want to do is lower expectations as much as possible, under promise over deliver, right? So you want to highlight, the challenges that you're facing when publishing these papers, okay? Now, second part of your plans for the future is a realistic pipeline, and I really want to underscore the word realistic, okay? So if you look here, right? I mean, this is this appears to be a crazy pipeline, right? Because if you look at things that are that are out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 papers that are out. That's crazy, right? That's completely crazy. Now, so what I will do in my own analytical report this year is highlight that this paper here, and this paper here are papers that I'm co-authoring with other people and where I am not the leading author. Okay, so that moves my pipeline from 6 papers to 3 papers, which is a little bit more realistic. Okay, and here, I mean, I would say if you I won't go for more than 4 papers in a year. I mean, because if you think about it, you basically, if you think about revise and resubmit cycles that take 6 months, you're basically on 2 papers per cycle. That's a lot. Like carrying 2 revise and resubmit cycles at the same time is it especially if you're publishing well in good journals, that's a lot of work. Okay, so I'll say 4. With you could go to 5 if some of your papers are on late stage revise and resubmit. So this is the second round, and the reviews look good. But more than that, we'll just begin to seem unrealistic. In the same vein, I would avoid going below 3, just because to be realistic, between 1 and 2 papers get rejected and need to be sent somewhere else. So less than 3 basically means that you won't have the numbers to put out to reach your targets. So I'll say it's just not the right signal. So it's also not a realistic pipeline in the sense that it's not realistic to keep your targets. So definitely do that. If you only have like 1 paper now, that's fine. That's what we get. What I get a lot when people apply that they have a paper and write and resubmit. But what I want to see is that people have like realistic papers that they can write. So this is, for example, papers where you're either using data that you already have, or where you're doing something with a literature review, or you're doing something with 2 or 3 other people. So things that it's not 3 A-level publications, new ones in 2 years. That's just not going to happen. You don't have the time to do that. Okay, so unrealistic, and obviously, this is a moment for self-reflection. So you can also help you think, okay, so what should I do? Also, super important in your pipeline, and I know it sucks to hear this. And obviously, if you're at Oxford, this may not be good advice, or at Harvard or MIT, but then I guess you don't need advice if you're at those places. But just make sure that you have papers at all ranges, okay? All ranges. Bad hair there here. So you see, I keep a range count here. So let me just zoom this up. So the grade here is the sort of like the ranking of the journal. So you see, I have just in the ones that are out and going, I have 1 category 1 that I got to revise and resubmit, then 2 category 2s and 3 category 3s. Okay, so I think that's fine. I personally, I think like you should have like double your target for the top category. So in my school, you need a category 2. So I think 2 category 2s are fine. So here I'm a little bit overachieving, and and then you should have enough category 3s. Now, most of us, when you write category 3s, we do so for a reason, and you can explain that in your report. Obviously, when these are new papers, because if they're old papers, that's okay. in theory you explained it before. But so for example, this for me is the data for this paper are really narrow, so it's difficult to push it higher than a category 3. This literature review here, it's sort of like a subproduct of this one here, which is in a category 2, so it's a category 3. Again, this is also a rough literature review, so so it's fine. So do explain that, but also make sure that you have something that when your head of department looks at your pipeline, says, this makes sense, okay? And then, achievable plans, okay? So what does this mean? This means that, for example, you need to take into account the number of, sorry, I just got a message there, just wanted to make sure that it was not about stream. If you have something which is in round one revise and resubmit, then don't claim that you're going to publish it within the year, because that is unlikely, right? So just make sure that these plans are something that you can achieve. Okay, so for example, in my case, this is an extremely high risk first round revise and resubmit. So here, no way I'm going to publish it. So I'll say, okay, my plan is to get a second R&R for this. This one, we've already sent a second version, so I expect an acceptance within the year. This one, first round, high risk revise and resubmit. So I won't promise a publication this year. This first round revise and resubmit, so also no publication this year. This one, I sent the third revision of the paper, so I expect to publish it this year. And this one, second round, revise and resubmit, maybe could be published this year, but I'm not going to promise that, okay? Because, not sure. Anyway, that's it. Okay. So, final point. Final point is that we must remember that research is a numbers game with odds stacked against researchers. That's just it. Okay, so, and I made this point in many videos on writing. Okay, where what I have said is that you need to focus on what you can control, and what you can control is your pipeline. What you can control is what you write. You cannot control what is accepted or rejected, okay? I'll tell you a story, right? Like my most painful writing story is this paper for my thesis that I think it's an amazing idea. I submitted it to AMJ, got an extremely high risk revise and resubmit, and I thought, okay, so if this goes through extremely high risk in all caps in the editor's letter, by the way. So, and it went through. So I thought, okay, so now the risk is relatively low, because if they wanted to reject the paper, they would have rejected it after the first round, right? So they write me the letter to show some risk, and I went through 2 more revisions, and they rejected the paper. Now, I'm not complaining about the paper being rejected. Maybe it should have been rejected, but it should have been rejected earlier, okay? So, it sucks, okay? It's a numbers game. This is like sales. It's a numbers game. So that's why you have pipelines like this. It's, you're never going to publish all of this. You're going to publish a third of this or a quarter of this. But, that's why you have pipelines. And this pipelines comes from sales, where it is exactly the same thing. You have to be comfortable with some papers not even getting published lower, like really not ever seeing the light of day. Okay? Going to book chapters. So, if this is the case, this has to inform what you write in your annual activity report. Okay? So, what does this mean? This means that in a good year, you're under promise. So this is what I did when I published my MIS quarterly and got an org science accepted in the same year. Right? I said, look, this is my pipeline for the next couple of years. All of these are new papers because I was super busy with these 2 other big papers. So it's going to take a while. It's likely that I won't get publications within the next 2 years. And actually, my org science piece was my last publication in 2018. My first publication after that, this year. Okay, so 3 years later. Okay, with and I had the pipeline, but things get rejected. It happens. So in a good year, it's super important. You need to be super careful. But you need to be as careful as a bad year when writing your activity report. Under promise as a matter of years, right? So it's like 2 to 3 years before something else comes out. Obviously, in the interim, in the meantime, you need to have a pipeline. You need to push the pipeline. So yes, this happened to me, right? So, for example. This paper, and this paper are now on their third rounds of revise and resubmit. So yeah, so I did send this out, and in the past couple of years, I have revised and resubmit decisions to show for myself, right? But no publication, so you need to really manage good years. On an okay year, I mean, this is, I'll say, when you publish like a lower tier paper, or where you get your revise and resubmits and everything's going well. You just need to be realistic, and just be careful about making promises on when you are publishing things, because it's more and more the norm to have things for 3, 4, even 5 revise and resubmit rounds. So just be realistic there. Okay, I'll say rule of thumb: if you have up to 3 papers in late stages of revise and resubmit, I'll promise 1 publication. If you have more than 3, I'll promise 2 publications, but not more than that. Okay. In a bad year, you need to get help. Okay. If you have a bad year, you need to get help, especially if you're a junior scholar. It's super important to say, okay, this has been rough, so I either need my targets adjusted, I need more time, I need more resources. So you can say, I need to take a few months off to visit co-authors, okay? Or maybe you need some more funding, or funding for things that your school does not typically fund. Perhaps, this would have to be a very bad year, but perhaps an adjustment to your teaching. Most schools, I'll say, would not be super open to adjust their teaching this late, and it's also not super nice to your colleagues, because somebody will have to pick this up. But you could, for example, get moved from courses, from one course to another, and just teach the courses that you're more familiar with. Okay, so. In bad year, get help. Most heads of department are happy to help. Most schools are happy to help and accommodate, but just make sure that you flag this. Okay. Again, do not try to impress. That's not the goal. Nobody's going to read an annual activity report to see how well you did. They'll read the part about your publications. That's how you impress. For everything else, you're just managing expectations and getting support. Okay? Good. So that's it. I still have to do my annual activity report today as well. So I'm going to follow my own advice. A couple of people mentioned a couple of quick tips on Twitter that I want to share. First tip is do not wait until the annual activity report to enter all of your information in the system, because it's going to take a while and you may not remember. And also, just keep a score, like a table, like I do with your papers, to know what you have done, especially for the revise and resubmit, so that you don't have to recall everything from memory. Second tip is, if your university has an online form, copy the headers from the online form and do everything in Word, so that it is auto-saved and you don't have to worry about saving and sometimes like your network will go down, and sometimes the website is not optimized and won't autosave. So yeah, so just make sure not to go through painful experiences. Anyway, so I guess that's it. Feel free to go back to Twitter and comment on the post announcing the stream today if you have any questions, and obviously don't forget to like and subscribe if you see this on YouTube. And thanks everybody, by the way, for your comments on YouTube. Those are really appreciated. I obviously always reply, but I just want to say thanks again for all the support, and best of luck for your yearly performance. I have had a good year this year. Thank God I had this nice publication. I relax a little bit more. So good luck for everybody. Good luck for me as well, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.